The odds of drawing into Onslaught's Citadel, if they have an Enchantress here, I'll cry. But does this card become something like 20? Oh my god, what is that number? What? Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another Marvel Snap video. So it's that time again where we draw some mystery cards from our collection log, we draft those into a deck, we form a deck around those, and then we pilot that deck to try and see how good it is, how viable it is. So today we actually have 2 cards. We grinded out some season pass rewards. So we do have 2 card unlocks. So we're hoping for something really, really good to kind of start this off. And before we pull the first card, just as a reminder, we are going to be drafting our deck after we pull the cards. If you're just more so interested in the deck overall and the gameplay, you are able to skip to the gameplay. I have the timestamps in the description. So in the time bar, it's easier to identify and skip to where you want to be. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and pull our first card. Let's hope for something just... Yesterday was pretty good. The day before that, not so much. So let's keep the streak going. We're gonna go ahead and pull it. Let's hope for something really... Rogue. Yes. So Rogue is one that I was really excited about. Now, I don't think she is deck defining. You can't really build a deck around Rogue, but Rogue is such a strong card in this Devil Dinosaur meta. So Rogue, on reveal, steal an ongoing ability from a random enemy card at that location. So they could be, let's say Space Throne. They dropped a Devil Dinosaur. We can wait until turn 5, turn 6, or really at any point in that time, and we can drop Rogue. It is going to steal the Devil Dinosaur's ability, and then we're going to get +2 for each card in our hand. So really strong card with an ongoing meta. And so we will pull our second card. I'm happy with Rogue, but I don't know what deck I would pilot her in off the top of my head. I mean, it makes Devil Dinosaur stronger, so now instead of 2 Devil Dinosaurs, you can have 4, but I don't really want to run that. That seems really overdone because it is so strong and so powerful that I do want to try something else, so we would kind of brainstorm a bit. Let's pull this second card and see for something good. Mysterio. So, I do kind of like Mysterio. Now, Mysterio, on first glance, is a little bit iffy. So Mysterio is a 2-cost, 5-power card, but as you play this, play illusions to the other locations and disguise this as an illusion until the end of the game. This does a couple of things. So it adds a token to those other locations that can be buffed up by Patriot, by, so let's say you buffed this up with Nakia. That token is also going to get that buff. It may be a 0-power token, but it's going to have +2 from Nakia, potentially +2 from Okoye or Okoye, and so this can be really fun to play. So I am excited about this one. I don't think it's necessarily as strong as a Rogue, but I do want to build a deck around Mysterio because he just does generate his tokens, so it makes our token deck a little bit stronger. I think we can do some pretty cool things with him. Okay, so here we are. We have Mysterio in our deck. Now, what I'm thinking is we want to build a token deck similar to what we did last time, but I want to do it from scratch, not kind of relying on anything that I built previously. And so let's go ahead and add Patriot in, because Patriot, ongoing, your cards with no abilities have +2 power. Now, looking at Mysterio, he has his tokens, which is the real Mysterio. The real one has 5 power. So they're going to get the benefit from that buff, similar to our Brood, except for they're going to be spread across multiple lanes. And so then I have to think, is Brood worth it? Because that's going to take up 6 slots for 2 cards. So I'm going to throw Brood in for now. I don't know that we stick with Brood, just because it takes up so many slots. And so I do want our basic buff components. So that's the idea behind our Patriot deck. We want to buff up our tokens before sending them out onto the board so that they get the most value possible. And of course, the 2 buffing components are going to be Okoye and Nakia. And then we already have Patriot in our hand. We are going to want to run Moon Girl to potentially double our Patriot, or maybe double our Mysterio, double something that's really high value. So we'll add Moon Girl. I think we even add debris just to disrupt the enemy a little bit. It adds a token onto our board, being the rocks. And then if we do have the buffs, it becomes pretty decent. What I worry about, though, is running out of space, because all of these cards are going to take quite a bit of space. So how do we navigate that? None of these cards are 1-drops, but the rocks that debris generates would be. So is it worth running debris? It's a card that I want to be good, I want to make work, but I haven't found a way yet. So I'm going to leave her in there for now. And the next card that we're going to add is Mojo. So Mojo being a card that works really well with Swarm type decks. Mojo's ability is ongoing. If both players have 4 cards at the location, it gains +6 power. So looking at it comparatively to Mr. Sinister, Mr. Sinister is going to be a 2 power, 2 cost, and it creates a duplicate. Now, if we buff it up with Nakia, Okoi, that's going to be a 6 power that's going to duplicate, so it would be 12. With Mojo, it could be 2, it'll be 6 power, plus it gets the +6 for being in a lane that is full. So I think, and it only takes up 1 space. So I think in terms of space, we go with Mojo, just because of how much board space we are going to be taking up. So actually, I was looking at this Khazar. Now, Khazar being, it gives 1-cost cards +1 power. Could we make that work in this deck? So if that's the case, we remove the Brood, because that takes up a little bit too much space. The 1-drops could kind of help us curve in to the bigger plays. So we would be able to duplicate more consistently with Moon Girl. So with that being said, do we go with something like, maybe we look at just flat no ability cards, not necessarily just tokens? And so that being Misty Knight, which on average is just mediocre. But if we're running out of space, I think it becomes potentially useful. And then, do we run something like Squirrel Girl? Or maybe even Ant-Man at this point, which I know he has an ability, but if we're swarming the board, more than likely we're going to be able to proc that effect, and then a Khazar is going to buff him up. And so if we're really leaning into the no effect type cards, I think Onslaught might be a play that we go with. And this may turn out to be really bad deck. But the idea behind Onslaught is if we stack Patriot and Khazar in one lane, we can drop Onslaught, and then the +1 or the +2 becomes +4, the +1 becomes +2, so it's all of a sudden +6. So that being Misty Knight and the rocks from Debris. Do we add like a Squirrel Girl to generate more tokens across the board? Do we add a destruction mechanism to clear out the Okoi or Nakia? So I think maybe we even add the Hood. So the Hood being a 1-cost card that becomes basically 2 1-cost cards. The first one being -2, the second one being 6. We can have a lot of upside with our buffs in this deck. So my issue with running Squirrel Girl is it's gonna go wide. Debris is already gonna go wide. If we drop Mysterio, that goes wide. So all of a sudden we have 3 cards in all 3 lanes very early on. And so going that wide that quickly makes it hard to drop something like a Patriot, Khazar, Onslaught into one lane. So I think we need a little bit more control over our cards. So let's look at this curve, and this deck looks so funky, but it does kind of remind me of an essence of our buff or our strong guy deck from when we first started, when we were climbing in pool 1 cards only. So it's a really low mana curve. So we have 3 1-cost cards, 3 2-cost cards, 4 3-costs, 4, and a 6. So we can Moon Girl pretty consistently with this. Is there anything that would add more value? Like I want to add and I want to like Squirrel Girl in this, but I just don't think it's quite there. And in certain scenarios, maybe we can even duplicate Patriot with Khazar, or drop 2 Patriots and a Khazar, making our tokenless cards much, much stronger. And if that's the play, do I go with an abilityless 2-drop instead of Mojo? So Mojo on average being 8 without any buffs. If we go with something like, it's going to sound so strange, if we go with something like Shocker, this is a 2-3. If we go with a 2-3 and it has a double buff from Patriot because it's token, or because it doesn't have any abilities, that's +4, so it becomes 7. So it would have to have more than 2. So I think we do go with Mojo. I think Mojo is going to be a little more consistent, because that, looking at Shocker, that is if we have 2 Patriots or a Patriot and an Onslaught, and I don't know that that's going to happen as often as we would necessarily like. The rest of the cards kind of feel okay. I'm a little hesitant about Debris, just with the way that she works, but I want her to be good. I want to be able to spam cards onto the enemy's board and really impact them. So maybe we drop a 1-drop into Space Throne, and then we drop Debris so that she drops a rock in Space Throne for them, and then we win that lane. There's some cool uses with her that I want to make work. So hopefully this deck turns out to navigate pretty well. I am a little bit afraid that it's going to be inconsistent. I think it'll be fun to play. I think it'll be fun to navigate, but I'm not sure if it's going to be the most consistent. I don't think it'll be like a Devil Dinosaur tier, but I think we'll be able to do some cool things with it that will take the opponents off guard. And so we both drop Okoi, so we're able to buff up our deck, which we still have quite a few draws that we're going to be taking. And then Stark Tower, so at the end of turn 5, give all cards there +2. So I think, do we just go with something like this? We let them know that we have Mojo, or do we hold off and we duplicate? Do we duplicate our Demon and our Mojo? I think we do. I think we duplicate our hand as is, because I don't know if we're going to get buffs or not. We don't know what we're going to draw into, so I think we play off of what we have now. And having 2 6-power demons is pretty nice, especially if we later draw into Patriot or Khazar or any of those buff conditions. And then Mojo, with us being able to drop in, Debris towards the end, as long as we draw her. With us being able to drop her in, that gives us the ability to kind of finish off an opponent's lane and make sure that they have 4 cards there. So I'm holding my Mojos for now because I want them to drop a few extra cards, so like Stark Tower. We're going to be able to make sure that that one's full regardless. And so I think that next turn we'll play our Mojo over there. Ooh, so we play Debris as well as Mojo. And so we'll play Debris in this left lane. I don't think it will swing this lane for us, but I think what will allow us to do is make sure that they fill, but then we won't be able to fill up our lane. So maybe we do it like this. Maybe we give up this left lane. We fight for this right lane, so I think they're going to have it filled up. But of course, we're going to trigger the Mojo buff and the Ant-Man buff off of that. And then if we throw rocks in the other directions, I think we have a pretty solid play line. So Professor X, they're locking it down, which is okay. Had we dropped our Debris there, though, no, we would have lost it by 1. We would have been very, very sad. And so this one is now filled. They're not going to be able to drop anything in here this turn, and that gap is too wide for them to... Oh, my lord, I forgot about... Whoa. They have Patriot? Why do they have Patriot? So I think I drop it like this. What kind of deck are they running? Anyways, I think I drop it like this. Storm will change this location, of course, but Patriot is going to buff up our demon over here, and that being the only token that we necessarily have because we ended up getting filled up for space. But I think we'll have a solid shot at competing for this lane. And they have a mojo. So that +6, do I ever just drop one? I think I do. I don't think it's worth I don't think it was going to be worth dropping both, knowing that they would probably try to fill this up, and they have mojo that we accidentally sent them. So overall, not a bad first game. I think it was a bot first off, so I'd like to pilot this deck against a few human players now that we have like one test run out of the way. So we end up getting our wish. We're going to go up against Fanatic, Fasciamo Fanatic. So I'm going to play the Hood in the left lane, kind of hoping that it gets destroyed. If it doesn't, that's okay, because we're going to have some buff mechanics that's going to be able to take away the negative downside of it. And so then we have our Debris, we have Mysterio. It'd be nice to draw into a card buff, but I'm wondering if I try to hold for that or not. So I think I'm going to pass this turn at least to see what this last location is, because I don't really want to play anything in the Gila, because then we're going to have rock draws, and that's really, it feels really bad when you end up drawing rocks. So if we drop some cards to the point where we can duplicate Patriot, so maybe we do next turn we do Mysterio, Ant-Man, and whatever else we draw, or maybe just Ant-Man and Moon Girl. I think if we get a double Patriot here and we get a few tokens with Mysterio, it can become really strong, really fast. And then of course we have the rocks that we'll be buffing up. And so if we play... Oh, 1-cost cards can't be played there. Ooh. And so I think we have our next two turns kind of lined out. Actually, no, we're not going to be able to drop both of them, because we're going to want to drop an Onslaught on turn 6. So do we worry about using Moon Girl or not? So we can always drop Mysterio here, as well as... I'm trying to decide where it's worth throwing this Ant-Man, because I'm not going to want to accidentally destroy them. So I'm going to dump them here in the Gila, knowing that next turn I'm going to drop a Patriot, and then whatever else we draw. If that's a rock, that's okay. We're going to get a double buff off of it, so I'm going to drop Patriot here, followed by Onslaught here as well. Oh, I should have put the fake Mysterio, the real Mysterio, somewhere else. Why did I put him in that lane? Oh boy, like we're not going to need him in that lane because we're going to have an Onslaught to kind of help carry it home. That was silly. That was goofy. That was not a good choice. But I am excited about seeing kind of how all of these tokens get buffed up. So we're going to have the Mysterio tokens, which are going to get +4, so they're going to be almost as strong as the real Mysterio by the end of the game. And then we also have the rocks, which most of the time rocks are terrible, but this time they're going to get +4, so they're going to be 4-power rocks. And so I'm kind of excited to see where this ends up. I think we have a decent enough shot at winning. And then we have Khazar. I think it's more worthwhile to drop our Patriot, because all of our 1-cost cards besides Ant-Man and the Hood are tokens. So I think we do that, and then we get the upside of it affecting Mysterio. So I don't think we worry about Khazar in this scenario. So let's drop the Patriot, see if we can pull this win off. It also looks like they're running a kind of small or swarm deck of some sorts. So I feel like the game matches you with a deck that's similar to what you're running. Ooh, get Ant-Man, please. Or the Rock. Okay, the Rock will work. Maybe we'll draw into a Rock next turn, which I think is the only time I've really rooted for drawing into a Rock. But in this scenario, I am okay with it. Ooh, and they drop Enchantress, which had they dropped earlier, or I guess later. Oh, never mind. I forgot. Rocks are 1 cost. I don't want to draw into a Rock. What am I talking about? The Enchantress could have blocked our Patriot and our Onslaught, so the only thing we have to worry about in this case is if they have an Odin, which they would drop and re-trigger Enchantress, but I don't think we just anticipate it. And then once we get this buff off, it's going to be +2, so another 2 here, so we win this lane, another 2 here, so another 4 here. Is that enough? I think we hope that if they play a card in this area, it gets destroyed. Because this is not going to... Oh, but we get the +5 Mysterio. So if they play all their cards here, we may... Oh, so they drop them here with the Chavez. So we're going to win. We're going to turn the left lane with our Onslaught buff bonus. Token deck coming in. Kind of funky. But it feels like it could be decent. Maybe not against the Devil Dino. Like just competing with that much raw power is really, really difficult. And before anyone says it, I know that I could throw a Nova Carnage combo into this deck. I could take out something like Mojo and maybe even Okoi just to hold the Nakia buff, or Mojo and then something else. But it just seems like Nova Carnage is so overdone. I don't really want to run it. I want to try and navigate this deck without that combo. And so that's why I opted to not put it in, and I realized that I didn't necessarily address or even mention Nova Carnage in putting it into this deck. But that was the thought process behind it. I don't want to run or rely on that, even though we're a wide deck. It's so overused that I want to kind of future-proof myself for when it gets nerfed. And so we do have the Hood, which we're going to go ahead and play just to get our demon in hand. We may end up duplicating the demon. So we have now -2 ninjas. I think... Do we still go ahead and play Misty Knight? Do we skip this turn, play Nakia and Patriot? So both of these being tokens that would get the benefit of having a second Patriot. I think in that scenario, I think next turn we drop Moon Girl, and so in that case we can at least play one of these 2 cards. That way we duplicate our Patriot and our Demon, our 2 higher priority cards. Then we can kind of go from there. So it looks like they're running the cheeky combo, the Lady Sif Ghost Rider. So this turn, I think we do still go with our original plan of dropping Moon Girl. We'll be able to play 2 Patriots, whether we hold out to the very last turn or not. I'm not for sure. I haven't decided yet. It may depend on if we draw an Onslaught or what that looks like. So now they're discarding really wide. And a Jessica Jones in a discard deck feels odd. So we have our 2 demons. I think we go ahead and drop one of each. We drop our regular Mysterio somewhere. Where do we drop our regular Mysterio? Boop, 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 boop. And it's not going to be as major as if it was a 0 power, because at the end of the game, it's going to be at least 4 power, so it's not a huge difference. But it might be enough to swing a location. So I'm going to go ahead and play the real one in the middle and let the 2 fake ones go out to the sides. So they come in with a Jubilee. They top decked into a Sunspot. That's unfortunate. So we know that they have Enchantress in their discard, but they also have like a Jessica Jones and one other. It was Swordmaster. So we do draw into Onslaught, so it's unfortunate that we're not going to be able to play both of our Patriots. So unless we draw into Khazar, no, even if we draw into Khazar, I think Onslaught is the play next turn. And then that way it double buffs. We're not going to be able to get the quadruple buff. Like that's the dream. Be able to get both Patriots into the game, followed by an Onslaught. Like that's the absolute dream. But let's go ahead and drop our Onslaught. I think we have a really good shot. Even if they pass, I think they're going to plan on dropping their Infinite here, and then with this 6 power. Oh, yeah, with the 6 power, we're going to be able to get this back above 0. So this will bring us back to 0. And then our buff from the Patriot is going to bring this up and over. So I think we're fine. I honestly think we snap here and see if he believes us. I think we win the left lane and the far right lane, and he puts the Infinite in the middle. And so there is the card drop. It is the Infinite. We, of course, don't have the power to overcome it. We actually get pretty close, which is kind of funny. We get 1 power away from overcoming the Infinite in that lane, which is kind of blows my mind a little bit, that we almost overpowered an Infinite as well as a Hell Cow, both being really powerful cards. Just phenomenal. This deck feels like it actually has potential, which is kind of surprising. When you look at all of the like individual pieces, you're like, I don't know if this is gonna work, but it has. And so let's go ahead and continue. So I did a bot check on this guy. He didn't respond. He didn't do an emote back. So this may be a bot, but we do draw into Limbo, or get turned into Limbo. Limbo reveals on this game. Oh my god! So we do end up with a Limbo location, which is actually pretty good for us. I think. I think it allows us to do some really cool additional things. Oh my gosh! And then we have the Citadel, where we're going to be able to drop, and it's going to double. If we can do Onslaught as well, it's going to double that double, and it's just going to be insane. So I think I just drop some power onto the board for now. I just play kind of on curve. And then I think maybe we buff here with Nakia, but it also takes up a space. So it kind of feels like a little bit of a waste because it takes up a turn. Or it takes up a spot on the board for 1 power that's not going to get buffed by anything. So I want to be aware of adding rocks because debris is not going to be able to add anything into this lane, so it kind of cuts how much value she can add. So I do think I go with Nakia. I'm going to go in this middle location. No, I'm going to go with the left side. Just in case I draw into a Moon Girl, I duplicate. I don't think that's ever going to happen, actually. I duplicate like Khazar or Patriot, and I have both on the board as well as Onslaught. Like, it could happen, but I think the chances of it happening are not great. So we are going to drop our Khazar here, who's going to smallly impact. It's going to smallly buff our couple of 1-drops that we have. We don't have that many 1-drops on the board currently. So do we run our Moon Girl? It would duplicate our first 3 cards, being Onslaught, Misty Knight, and Debris. Turn 6, I can drop Onslaught. Turn 7, I can drop Onslaught and Misty Knight into a... I don't even know how many that would be, honestly. I think we do. So I'm going to play Mojo here, Moon Girl here. drop one onslaught, and then Misty Knight, which is going to end up being +2. Is it going to be +8? Or is it going to be +16? Too much math for me. I'm just going to go with that it's a pretty cool play line, and I want to see how big Misty Knight, our 1-drop card, no abilities. I want to see how big she gets. And so as we add these cards in, I think we pull over and win this lane. But let's just go ahead and kind of play it out. So they're going to be able to add cards into Miniature Lab this turn. I think I just go ahead and play Onslaught. If they have an Enchantress, we retreat. Like there's nothing you can really do about it at this point. You just kind of dive in, all in, and we'll see if they add a card in that middle location. If they do, then great. They're capped out there. We can kind of play around it. If they don't, then we may be in trouble. So they move several cards over to the miniaturized lab, I guess to get allow Nimor to get his single card in lane buff. But oh my lord, this is gonna be nuts, isn't it? So we do this. We have 2 1-drops because we duplicated it. Oh no, we can't drop both. I got a little carried away. I don't even know how much of that is. So it's base 6. Yeah, that doesn't help me. It goes a little too far. So it's base 6. So right now we have +8. So if this doubles that doubled, then does it become 16? Is what I'm wondering. If so, then we could swing probably both of these lanes. Oh my gosh. The odds of drawing into Onslaught's Citadel, if they have an Enchantress here, I'll cry. But does this card become something like 20? Oh my god, what is that number? What? So it turned out to just be 7 somehow. How? What happened? So it just shows 7 now. So did we win this lane by a bunch or not? Like how much did we win this lane by? So is there anyone smarter that can figure out what happened here? I've been pondering it for a second. How is this one only 4? So with the Khazar Onslaught, it should be something more than 4. Is there anyone out there that might be able to explain this to me? So we're going against good guy Gus. We're going to kind of swarm this left side of the board, and then while we get some more information on what other locations there are. So they're running an Agent 13. Typically that means a Devil Dino Collector. So we'll see if that's kind of in line with what they're playing. I would fully anticipate that it is. So we have an interesting combo here. We have the Patriot and Khazar, and we'll draw into Onslaught. So these 2 cards are going to get 3 buff and then 6 buff at least onto whatever their base stats are. So I think in that case we split the drop up. We drop our powerful one in the middle because he's going to be 12. He's going to be able to really compete or hold down and try to fight for that lane. So I think it feels right to have him there. Ooh, we could do... So those are both tokens anyways. I think we do the Patriot instead. That way it opens it up to our Mysterio play. I think that's how we play it. So I think we drop Moon Girl. Next turn we drop potentially a Patriot Mysterio. And then maybe even on the final turn, we drop another Patriot Mysterio. I think I like that. Depending on what else we draw, that feels like it would be a pretty good play. And would give us a pretty solid chance. Oh, wait, it's just turn 4, isn't it? Ooh, we did get in an Onslaught. So unfortunately, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have a clear lane because it's going to move all cards out of that location on turn 5. So, or at the end of turn 5. Otherwise, we would need to drop a Patriot this turn and a Patriot next turn as well. So is there a way we could do it? We could do Patriot. We could do Patriot here. Next turn, do Patriot and a Mysterio? I'm not sure. I want to make this happen, but I think because of Strange Academy, I don't think it will. And so they drop Moon Girl, so I do have to be concerned about double Nova. But I think what we want to do is just kind of play it out and see what happens. So I think we play the real Mysterio here. We play our second Patriot here. And then we kind of see what the lanes look like after this effect has finished. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that the Patriots are going to move. And maybe we can get it where only one moves if Mysterio from the right lane moves to one of the lanes instead of it being Patriot. If that's not the case, I may not drop Onslaught and may end up dropping something else. And so we have Mysterio coming down. They have Iron Man, which is a pretty good card for Stark Tower. And it makes sense, right? You get the +2 bonus at the end of turn 5. Stark Tower, you got Iron Man. It makes a lot of sense to have it that way. And so it's going to move the cards into a random location. We have one Patriot and one Mysterio. So we are able to still drop the Onslaught here, but can it compete? So it's going to end up doing another 2 to these two, which this lane will be gone. If they do the double Nova, this one becomes... I think we have a shot at competing here. Double Nova would turn this one into nothing great, because it would get the buff, but they would also lose cards. And then, but this one becomes something like 12, doesn't it? And we don't have our Mysterio here anymore. Do we? I think we lose this. I'm actually fairly certain that we end up losing this, because they will get a big enough buff here that we're not going to be able to compete with our additional +2, especially with their Stark Tower. I think we let it play out, but they're going to double Nova here. We win this mid lane. They win this left and right lane. And so a Nightcrawler into double Nova. God, holy moly, it's a triple Nova. So we definitely can't compete. We had the right call, but I wanted to see it with my own eyes to believe it. So this one could be very, very fun. If we drop a Patriot, 3, 4, a Patriot, and an Onslaught. Oh my gosh, this could be very, very fun. So I think I leave the cloning vats kind of open, and I just worry about playing our tokens into these locations. Oh boy. So maybe I play this a bit differently. So maybe I play debris, copy it, flood their lane over and over and over and over. So they have a lot of really low cost cards. Oh, they get our Mysterio. That's unfortunate. but we have debris that's going to be able to blast out some rocks. And then we can either drop Patriot or do we do Patriot now into Patriot next turn and Onslaught to do 2, 4, 8? To do 8 for each one. I think we drop at least one more debris to fill up some of their spaces. So they're getting kind of close to being maxed out on their card locations, and then we'll be able to play, and they won't have any space to play in for probably the last turn. So it'll be kind of funny to see. And so, unfortunately for them, they are gonna be out of space. So how do we play this one now? So I know I want to drop an Onslaught next turn. I think our Patriot is the play here. So yes, these are all 1 drops, but Khazar only does +1, whereas Patriot does +2. So they only have 2 slots to play in, and they're probably pretty terrified that I'm gonna debris them again. So I bet they play cards in both of those locations this turn. Oh no! I wanted to see my massive rock collection turn into just a massive powerhouse unit of +4 each. So this one would turn into a 12 power lane. This one would be 8, and they're sitting with dead draws. So at least with cloning vats, debris turned out to be a good call for this deck. So that is all of the time that I have for games today. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below. It helps the video kind of stand out. It lets me know what you guys are enjoying, what content to keep creating, and it helps the video get discovered. So this deck overall, it felt a lot more solid than I think it should. It felt very fun to play. You have all of these tokens all over the place, and then you can buff them up to something like ridiculous level. And just it felt really fun, really solid. I don't know that it's top tier. I think it is fairly competitive, just because your opponent doesn't know what's going to happen. Can it compete with multiple Devil Dinos? I think that we saw in certain scenarios it can, but a triple Nova we can't survive a triple Nova. I don't know that anybody can. But even without Nova, this one felt super solid. It felt really fun. I finally found a way to play debris. It's not the thing that I have in mind. I do have a deck that once I unlock a card or 2, I think will be really fun, really solid, really consistent. I have a deck idea with debris and with Beast whenever we pulled Beast. Separate decks, of course, but when we pulled Beast, I think we're going to have a really good deck that's just going to be... It's going to be like a grief deck. It's not going to be fun to play against, but it's going to be fun to play. So those are things to look forward to. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.